Hi everyone, welcome to a volunteer training on how to help users with Dahlia, San Francisco's affordable housing portal. This is Ghazal speaking, and I am one of the digital literacy program managers here at CTN, and I'll be walking you through this training today. So for the agenda today, we'll first discuss more about what Dahlia is and how CTN and our volunteers like yourselves play a role with this tool. We will walk through the actual website and go through a housing application so you can become more familiar with the platform, and also discuss the specific digital literacy skills that tie back into this website and that will come into play when you're assisting learners in the lab. Lastly, we will touch on some housing resources that are available for learners. So what is Dahlia? Some of you may or may not have heard of this acronym. It stands for Database of Affordable Housing Listings, Information, and Applications. The website is listed right here, and it was created by the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development. So the portal is really a one-stop resource with housing listings and housing information that individuals can go through and look at to apply for various housing opportunities. The applications themselves have also been streamlined, and so that there is an efficient process for applicants. Previously, there is a lot more information that was needed to apply for affordable housing, whereas now, again, the information has been cut back, so you're giving more limited information in this process. Additionally, this Dahlia also eliminates the need for a public lottery draw. Previously, applicants had to physically go to a site to see the lottery results, whereas now when an applicant submits an application on Dahlia, they will automatically receive an electronic lottery number on their screen and also in their emails if they provided an email in the application that can later be inputted into Dahlia itself to find out their results. So it has really just makes it a more convenient process for applicants. Securing and finding housing in the Bay Area is a difficult one. So the hopes with this portal is just to make a more transparent process in, securing housing. And this is where CTN also comes into play and our volunteers. So it's great to have this resource available, but we also want to make sure that individuals have access and have the necessary digital skills to actually use this website. So learners may be coming into the computer labs across San Francisco trying to receive help with this website and with more digital skills and tools that are needed, such as an email for Dahlia. So we will talk more about that, but that is where you will come into play here as a volunteer to really help individuals use this portal. So for a housing application online, there are 5 steps in the process. The first is an applicant's name and their basic information like date of birth, address. The second is household. So if they plan to live with a parent or a sibling, they need to provide their information. The third is preferences, which can increase an individual's lottery ranking depending on what the preferences are in a listing. So one of those preferences can be living or working in San Francisco, and an individual needs to provide documentation for that. We'll talk about that more when I'm going through the actual portal. Again, preferences are optional, but it is recommended to select it because if you do qualify for it, it does bring up an individual's chance in the lottery system. So the next portion is income, and lastly we have review, where an individual can go through and edit any information that they see necessary, and also answer some demographic questions, which, while optional, are recommended to fill out just so that the city gets a better view and a better sense through the data that they're collecting about who is accessing this tool and who is finding housing through Dahlia, and then submission. So quick 5 steps for this application process. It's a faster process for someone who is digitally literate than someone who is, just learning how to use the computer. So here we have the website listed above and the test site. So the test site, you can go on and actually walk through an application yourself as well and click the submit button, and you won't actually be applying for an actual housing opportunity. So there is one that you can utilize, which is 450 Mason. I think actually for the purposes of today, I will go through a demo on this website. It looks exactly like the actual website itself, but this will just give me a chance to go through and click submit. So here we have the website. And this is what the actual one will look like, even though this is the test site. So we have our language options here, and we have 4 tabs above here. Browse properties leads an individual to the same place as see listings. So you see all the different housing opportunities. My favorites, you can favorite a housing listing and it will show up in this tab. Get assistance is where you will have access to more resources such as housing counselors and other opportunities that aren't listed on Dahlia. And sign in is if you have a Dahlia account, you can sign in or you can create one. The rest of this page has some other parts that I'll talk about in a bit, but I'm first going to actually just go through an application process. So we want to go ahead, and if a learner comes into the lab and then they want to see the different opportunities, they can just click see listings. And then for the testing purposes, this 450 Mason training is actually the one that you want to select. So we can see it says, the location. It gives us more information on the income level, the rent, also option to favorite it. So we can heart that, and that will put it in our favorites tab. So I'm going to click on see details. And this page gives a breakdown of all the information on this listing. So it says the deadline for this application, how many units are available, how many waitlists are available. So Dahlia is not only for available units, it is also for waitlist opportunities to join the list. So it has a breakdown of how to apply, whether it's doing it online, which we'll go through in a sec, or in paper. So with the creation of Dahlia, there is still an option to submit a paper application. The instructions are on this website. Individuals must provide a postmark envelope, with their application, and the information on where to send it is provided here. On this side, we have eligibility information, expectations for rent, and the occupancy, and the preferences, which I talked about. So for this listing, there are, about 5 preferences, or 7, on this test site. So the first one, certificate of preference, which is for individuals displaced in the 60s and 70s. So these are all different preferences that if someone qualifies for it, they can select, and they may or may not need additional information. These top 2 preferences don't need documentation. That is just something that an individual can click off, and the mayor's office on the back end checks to make sure that they actually do have those certificates. Another preference, such as live or work in San Francisco, will need documentation, and there is a document checklist on the website under the Get Assistance tab, but also through here when you click here. And that will give you information on what you can attach, but in the portal itself, it also shows that. And we have pet zebras, so this is a testing site, so not an actual reference. And yeah, just some more information for someone who's applying here. You can see the neighborhood and so forth. So to apply online, I'm going to go ahead and click apply online. The page just starts off with choosing a language. You have the option to sign into your account. So there are 3 chances to really create an account with Dahlia. One is at the beginning of an application. Another one is while we're in the middle of it. So I'll show you in a bit. So the first question is, are you and everyone on this application a senior? So this is a specific listing. So for the purposes of this training, I'm going to say yes. Yes. It gives you a little rundown of just what to expect and the document checklist. And so it starts at the first part of this 5-section process that we talked about. So we're on you. So giving a name. So I'm just going to do my name and a date of birth. So we're senior citizens, so we're going to do it a little before. And then it takes you to a contact page. So you want to make sure that at least one of these is filled out. I'm going to say I don't have a telephone number, email address, and we have street address. So it states here if a client is homeless, then they can enter their shelter address or an address close to where they stay. So if an individual is in their car, living in their car, for instance, they can use the address of where they're parked closest to. So just filling out the information. And this question, do you work in San Francisco? I'm going to say yes. And this is actually one of the lottery preferences. So it says, in order to claim this as a lottery preference, you'll need to upload supporting documentation on the next screen. So we're just going to go ahead and click next. And then it's asking to confirm the address. You can provide an alternate contact. For the purposes of today, I will say no. And then it moves on to household. So you can add another individual or say you live alone. So I'll just show you what it looks like. It gives you a reminder that individuals should not be listed on any other application. So if your friend Lily applies for this housing, has already applied for this housing, and you add her onto your application, then we will both be disqualified. So you want to so an applicant wants to make sure that whoever they're adding into their household hasn't already submitted an application themselves. The applicant themselves also should not have already submitted an application previously. So something to keep in mind, just to check in with your learners to make sure that they haven't already submitted one, whether in paper or online. So you can add a household member and also just go ahead and put, add their basic information. So I'm gonna just cancel that. Done adding people. Asked about ADA accessibility features. No. So if a learner has a certain need, you want to go ahead and click that. This part asks about housing vouchers or rental subsidies. So this is just for the developer to know because it takes away the income limits for them as they're calculating things. So you can say yes or no. I'm just going to say no. And then it asks for your income. So we're just going to do 35. And then it goes on to preferences. So you see it moves pretty fast when you're going through this yourself. So it says, good news, you qualify for a higher ranking. So because of the address that I provided, the CTN offices, it seems for this particular listing, if you're in the neighborhood, you qualify for a preference. So live in the neighborhood. And this says it will also, so we will go ahead and do that. You will need to select the name of the document. So since I'm just one individual, it will just have my name. But if you added 2 people in a household, you would be selecting whose name would be on the document. So again, the document, it provides a drop-down option of which one I am attaching. So telephone bill, gas bill, so forth. So I'm just gonna click on one, and it does say the address. It must show the correct name, address of where you live in San Francisco, and a date within 45 days of your application. So just something to keep in mind for anyone who you're working with. So I'm just going to upload a screenshot, not an actual telephone bill, but so you can see it's loading, and that you have the option to say that you don't want a preference, but it is recommended that you do go ahead and upload a document, because it is only beneficial for an applicant. It's better for their ranking. So go ahead and click next, and then there are the other preferences, the COP, Certificate of Preference, and if an individual, usually if they have this, they are aware of this and know that they qualify for it. If they're uncertain, they can click on this blue highlighted text, and it will lead them to a website that will explain more about this certain preference. So if I click on it, it will ask who has this preference, and it asks if you know your number. Again, this is optional, so you don't need to provide it. And then I'm just going to go ahead and click next. So this listing, again, it is a testing listing. It has households with pet zebra, so we're just going to click yes, and my name. And this one didn't have an attachment required. This is another one. I think this is not applicable to this listing, but it's just there. So we're just going to click next. And then the last step is review. So you now have the opportunity to provide your demographic information. So again, it's optional, but helpful to go through this. So it asks a lot of demographic information. And how did you hear about this listing? You will click next, and then it gives you a chance to review, and you can go in and actually edit the different areas. So you can click on that and then just go back into review. That leads you back into that page. So if you see something that's off or wrong, this is a chance to edit it. And then you can click confirm. And then again, it asks you before you're done if you want to create an account with Dahlia. So creating an account with Dahlia is beneficial because it can, first off, save the information that you have submitted or filled in. So say if an individual is applying for a listing and they don't have their documents to upload, then they can save and continue later, and then they will be able to come back to their account and continue their application where they stopped off. This will also provide a chance to view their past applications. So if an individual is worried about having duplicate applications, they can see what they previously submitted. They can also view their favorites, so their favorites will be saved. And lastly, the new application. So if they're applying for another application, they will have their own information autofill into the new application if they've already submitted one. So it's just an extra beneficial thing for the applicant. So I'm just going to continue without an account, and it gives you a run through of just the terms that you need to agree to. Click submit, and done. So an individual has successfully, we've submitted an application, and it gives us our lottery number, and it tells you what date to expect the lottery, and that you can come back to the listing to see the results with your number, and to not submit another application. It again asks you if you want to create an account, but yeah, you can print it, or you can continue on and say I'm done. So that was a really quick application process. So that was an application, fully going through an application. And you can see it's a very streamlined process, but again, for new learners, that will take some time. There are some barriers that I'll talk about and that come up in this process. Talking more about this website, there are chances to also sign up for an account here, as we talked about, and also to sign up for an email alert. So if an individual wants to know when new housing opportunities are listed, they can go ahead and provide an email address, their first and last name, and click off if they want ownership listings or rental listings, and then just go ahead and sign up so that they can get alerts when something comes up. You can see this was a previous testing I had done, but once an individual does apply, they get an email too with their lottery number and where they will be able to, when they will be able to see the results. So going back here, you can see, yeah, that was a quick run through of an application. Let's do. So you can see that while it was helpful, or while it was easier for me to go through this, there are some certain tools and skills that you need for this website. So an access to a computer, a smartphone, an email address, and that they can log in. So you don't need an email address to actually submit an application. You can go through the process without having one. But if you create an account or if you want email alerts again, then you need an email address for this. And it is highly recommended to create a Dahlia account just for easier access to the website and streamlined process. So there is the fact that some individuals may have email addresses, but they don't actually use them. So you always want to make sure that a learner can actually log into their email before going on to Dahlia, because when you sign up for a Dahlia account, an email will be sent to your account asking you to confirm the account. So you want to make sure that if a learner says, yeah, I have an email, you ask them, okay, do you want to go ahead and sign in for me? Because often problems with their password come up, so you want to make sure that they can access it. There is the basic knowledge on how to navigate a website, and the ability to upload attachments is needed. So this website is also compatible on a mobile phone, which is great, and individuals can not only just attach files, but they can also take a photo of a file. So if they don't have an electronic copy of something, but they have a physical copy, they can definitely just take a photo of it and attach it. So that's another barrier, though, in figuring out how to get a photo onto their application if they're applying through their computer, perhaps. So with that in mind, the common barriers that come in using this website is email and password. So first, you want to check if they do have an email. Again, making sure that they can sign in, and if they know their passwords. Passwords also relate to when creating a Dahlia account, making sure that that is also a secure password for themselves. And uploading attachments. So do they have their documents? And if so, then they may need to scan them or email them in to attach them. If an individual doesn't have their documents with them when they're working with you in the lab, they can definitely save their information. But again, they will need to create a Dahlia account. So they will need to save their information and they can return back to upload those documents. Some of you have been working in our computer labs for a while now, so you may be familiar with some of these tips and tricks. But if you are working with a learner to create an email address for them or create a Dahlia account, you want to keep these tips in mind to create a secure password. So we recommend 8 to 10 characters, mixing in your symbols and numbers, and also mixing in capital and lowercase letters, making sure that individuals aren't including their personal information. If you are working with a senior, then you can definitely help them try to think of a password by perhaps asking them of their childhood address that they could put down. That's something that can be useful, and just making sure to let them know that a password is something that they want to keep private and protected for themselves. but to also write it down because, learners oftentimes forget their passwords and that can cause problems down the road. So you want to make sure that they have it written somewhere that they can access later while you're creating one together. Oftentimes it's difficult for individuals to think of a password, so we recommend asking them to think of a favorite snack or a movie to start off with a phrase, and then substituting numbers and letters, as you can see in this example on this PowerPoint. So another point is attaching documents. Again, not all preferences need to attach documents, but for some you do, and this can be a big barrier. The formats that are accepted to attach documents are PDF, JPEG, PNG, or they can take a photo of the document. And lastly, we also have email alerts that we talked about on the website right now. So making sure that if an individual wants to have updated information on new listings, that they go through on the bottom of the page and click on an email sign up. And another part is referring clients for housing assistance. So I have listed here the housing counselors, which is under the website under Get Assistance. And we also have these list of housing clinics, free housing clinics that are provided by the partner agencies of a nonprofit called Home Ownership SF. Their website is also, their information is also listed in the Find a Housing Counselor portion of the website, but just wanted to make you aware of these times and dates for free clinics that individuals can actually go to and submit and apply for housing applications. Another part to bring up is that our WUFU form for submitting volunteer hours has been updated. So since we are collaborating with the mayor's office, we want to make sure we can get a sense of who is working with individuals on Dahlia and how many individuals we've assisted on that portal. So we're asking to select off if you have helped someone with Dahlia, and then providing their first and last name as well as an email address that was used with Dahlia. I know that this has brought up some problems with volunteers because they perhaps didn't get an email address. So Joanna and I suggest to use the volunteer alias, volunteer at communitytechnetwork.org, and that way we'll know that you weren't able to receive their email. But we do hope to just get a sense of how many individuals we're helping out in the computer labs across the city. So, yeah. Lastly, our questions. I know that since this is a virtual training, I'm not able to speak with any of you to get your questions. But if you have any questions, you can feel free to email me at Ghazal, Ghazal, at communitytechnetwork.org, or email Joanna, and you probably have her contact information. So thank you so much for being patient and going through this training and, wanting to help our learners and users in the labs gain access to this tool. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. So definitely let me know if any problems also come up in using the site if you are working with a learner, or if you have any suggestions that you want to bring up, and I can communicate that hopefully to the website developers. So really appreciate all that you're doing for CTN, for our learners, and thank you for being patient through this training.